Welcome, I'm Bonnie Goldstein, and I have the good fortune to be sitting with two renowned speakers, authors, community members, change agents. I'll first introduce Dr. Rick Hanson, who inspired the title of our conference, Rethinking Mindfulness and the Science of Psychological Well-Being, in his work, his many writings on Happiness 2.0, Rethinking Mindfulness and the Happiness of Psychological Well-Being. What do we need to change?
Right. Why rethink it at all, right? Why reinvent the wheel? Well, I think we're probably 20, 30 years out of mindfulness really moving into the culture with enormous benefit. And we're probably 50 years out easily in terms of a focus on positive psychology, especially the last 20 years or so of research on it. And like anything, I think there's a time to step back and evaluate what we've got, sort it out, and see where to go from here. My own opinion is that two things have crept into the field that could use some correction. Thus, the 2.0, distinct from 1.0. Building on the 1.0, first, I think mindfulness has taken on a quality of becoming identified with a sort of neutral, passive, receptive witnessing of experience in a way that to many seems to be in conflict with making active, skillful efforts in the mind, which I think is a mistake, and I bet Elisha agrees with me. The other thing is that I think that in terms of the positive psychology part, the happiness part, there's been a lot of focus on activating various beneficial states of mind, like gratitude or compassion or loving kindness or resilience, but not enough attention to actually working with the brain to install those passing states as lasting beneficial traits. Without that installation, it's a momentarily enjoyable experience, but it has no lasting value.
Dr. Elisha Goldstein, the author of Uncovering Happiness and the co-founder for the Center of Mindful Living in Los Angeles.
Mindfulness is fundamental, but it's not the entire answer. And so we really want to kind of look at this and integrate how do we kind of shift and make it practical so that not only in our lives but in our clients' and patients' lives, we can give them something to really work with, looking at the neuroscience, looking at the practicality of the integration of mindfulness and positive psychology, what we know now, and so that we can kind of, again, shake things up and moving forward. Well, I think this is what we're talking about shaking things up a little bit, is that there's a real need for an integration of, and first of all, just looking at some of the neuroscience and science to help point us to, what are the things that, we can kind of impact and actually use our experience with mindfulness to turn them from states to traits. And so here we see self-compassion. We see the recognition of our own suffering with this inclination to want to support ourselves instead of beat ourselves up, which is what we more naturally turn towards. So what's some of the science behind it? What's some of the research behind it? What are we finding right now, and how do we make it practical? And I like, as you said, we're gonna be integrating a lot of practices, throughout the conference to make it real, because ultimately, no matter what science says or no matter what we read in a book or anything, it's our experience that's our guide. And as clinicians or educators or anything, we want to teach from experience.